Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Alicia from Delicias. She is running her own cookie company. She does a lot of art and mixes art with cookies. She's been on Cake Wars. She's been doing this for several years. She grew up around art, and she wanted find a way to incorporate her art and her love for baking and making cookies. And so now she is her own company, and we're excited to have her on our interview session. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we'll start just talking about your background. Just kind of run us through how you grew up, where you grew up, your family, who inspired you to start with art and go into entrepreneurship.
Okay. I grew up actually in Northern California, in the Bay Area, so mainly San Jose. My mom's an artist, and she always encouraged me and my brothers to just do art in any way that we could. But she also did cakes and cookies for us when we were kids, for our birthdays, because we couldn't afford the fancy cakes at the stores. So I started helping her, and we just infused the art that she taught me and that she knew, and just started putting it into cakes, started putting it into like cookies and candies and cake pops and all those little things that we did when I was a kid. So I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, and it's just kind of developed. It's just always been with me, and just mostly cakes at the time when I was young, but during Christmas time we'd always do cookies or candies and stuff. So I just feel like it kind of has always been there with me. But San Jose is where I grew up, and just a good neighborhood, and my first job has always been the computer world, because living in Silicon Valley, it's like, I didn't work in retail. I actually worked in the computer world.
You can't get away from it up there.
No, you just can't. But starting at 11 years old in that, meeting adults and making baked goods for them when I could, and them always telling me, oh my gosh, you and your mom should do this as a business. It's, so great. And so I think it's always been a dream for me and my parents to kind of just start it. My dad never wanted to take the risk and help us. So my mom says, when you get older, open up a shop or do something, with it. So I'm grateful that I'm able to do it now.
So you were working, doing stuff with tech companies, and you were working there for how long?
For many years, since I was 11. It was in and out of just doing lots of data entry and that kind of stuff. And then during when I was going to college up there, I was working simultaneously doing computer work and health and safety and HR stuff, boring stuff. But while I was doing that, I always end up making a cake for a coworker or cookies, or people would always come to me and say, hey, Alicia, I'm having this party. Can you help me with the favors? And I'd make little chocolate suckers or something like that. Yeah. And it was just, I think my coworkers always kept me in that loop, of just like always creating and on the side making cakes and wedding cakes for my family and friends. That's just what me and my mom did. And even my dad like totally got in and helped us and, helped us deliver, helped us stack the cakes. So that was like my team. So, but that's, while I worked full-time jobs or went to school full-time, just that's what I did at night.
Yeah. Did you know that it would be something that you would eventually turn into a company? Was that like always the goal for you, even though you were, sitting in an office, or was it like, maybe like a dream?
I think it was a dream, not necessarily a goal. It was definitely a dream. I think my dad was very practical and always wanted to make sure we had good jobs, we had good education, and that we made good money to survive. Whereas my mom was the dreamer, and my mom would always be, no, you can do this, and so I felt like them simultaneously pushing me was a good mix, because I knew I needed to be responsible, but I also knew that I couldn't stop dreaming.
Yeah, and you talked about you started not with cakes. It was always art first, right? Your mom was an artist, and she did a lot of art, and that's something that just inspired the creation of putting your different twist on cakes and cookies, right?
Right, exactly. So my mom, being an artist, and she used to take commissions for oil paintings when we were little, inspired us to do more art. She saw that I loved to do it, so she put me in classes. Yeah. So I did take some professional classes with adults with painting, and I realized that I loved it. I mean, even my brothers are amazing artists themselves, and they don't use it to, very much. My younger one probably does, but I don't think my older one realizes that it's in his blood too, because he's so amazing at drawing. But I think I was the one that kind of took that dream. And quite honestly, it was like my mom's dream to become an artist. And I think I'm kind of living her dream in a way, but not forcefully. You know, it's not like my mom forced me, oh, you have to be an artist. No, my mom never forced me to do that. But I definitely can see that she's living vicariously through me.
Well, it probably helped, right? Not being forced into it.
Yeah, she didn't help. No, my parents never forced me to do anything that I was not comfortable with.
When you were working at these tech companies, doing data entry, some HR work, at what point you were doing your jobs at these tech companies and doing data entry, at what point did you want to take that leap, or did you know that you wanted to take the leap into entrepreneurship?
I think it was when I decided to move to San Diego 18 years ago. I needed to get away. I kind of felt stuck up north. I just needed to just kind of find myself, and I wanted to dive in. It was hard finding a job in San Diego because it was so different from up north. It was like I can get a tech job easily up there, but down here they were just definitely different. And so I went into the catering world, and I thought, oh, I could do this. I could be a planner, because I used to plan parties for my family and friends, and wedding cakes and all that stuff. I had that kind of Martha Stewart mind in a way. I was like obsessed about that stuff. So I just thought I could do that, and I thought, oh, that'll be a career move, and then I can involve my cakes or my cookies or whatever, favors, chocolate suckers, that kind of stuff. And I did. I worked for Hilton, for the hotel industry, and I was in catering there, and quite honestly, I would often offer up my services to either the clients or to my staff, and we would do chocolate suckers, or we would do cakes, or anything like that, and it was really nice to have that outlet and even get along with the chefs downstairs and talk with them, and them giving me advice, going, oh, you could do this, Alicia, them looking at my portfolio and saying, you're great, and you could be a cake maker, you could be a pastry chef. And so then it kind of inspired me to kind of push myself, like, okay, I could do this. And but still I had to make money because I was on my own, didn't have mom and dad anymore. So I continued to work and with any job that I could get, and I just continued to do the cakes and cookies on the side. And I think that's where I needed to make enough money in order to feel comfortable with leaping. So it took a while, definitely a lot of years of doing it simultaneously, working and at night making cakes and working, and I also entered competitions in the meantime. But then when I got that gratification of like, you're good at this, when people finally started giving me awards telling me you're good at this, my husband and I waited until the cottage law came up, and then that's when we're like, this is our opportunity. The cottage law is here, they're allowing us to do this at home. Let's do this. Let's make the leap. And so it, but still it was hard. But I knew that for anyone that's wanting to make the leap, I always recommend that they start doing the passion while simultaneously working, because you'll know if if it doesn't tire you out and it doesn't burn you out while you're working, then imagine how much energy you're going to have when you quit that job. So
well, I mean, it sounds like you intentionally went into catering, for example, right? Because it kind of combined, and you were able to kind of work on, or refine your skill, right?
Right. It was like a stepping stone to kind of see, can I be up there with the big guys, or the big girls that are hosting, all these party planners, and and to see if I am material for that, to work with them, to do food, and also working with chefs, and really going downstairs anytime that I had a break. I'd knock on chef's door and be like, hey, what's going on? And like, I would just get along with all of the chefs down there because I wanted to be a part of their world so bad. And I think just seeing that and kind of being involved, it really made me see what I needed to do for myself in order to take, push myself forward. That's where they recommended me to go into competitions. And I did. As scared as I was, I pushed myself.
I was gonna ask what prompted to, like, because a lot of people don't know about these competitions, right? They don't know these resources that they might have, or where to even start. So I guess did they tell you, hey, there's these competitions and you entered and you got in, or was it you seeking those out?
So the chef at the hotel told me I should do competitions, and I was like, well, where do I find these competitions? And he's like, look online, you'll find it. There's plenty of them out there. There's some that are across the country if you're willing to travel. Especially Las Vegas, they have tons of competitions. So I looked online and I found one locally, and I was like, oh, there's one here in San Diego, and it's, you know, and it's for a nonprofit, and all the money goes to charity. And it's like, well, that makes sense. Like, let's just do that. And so me and my husband, well, my fiance at the time, he encouraged me and said, yeah, I think you are capable of it. And he helped me, and we got second place. Awesome. In a category that was not amateur. When they saw our cake, they said, oh, no, this is not amateur. This goes to foreign technique category, which is where the professionals
So you entered into as amateur in this category.
Totally amateur.
And you made this amazing cake, and they looked at it and they said,
no,
this is not amateur.
Yeah, they said, no, you're in foreign
awesome.
technique. This is a technique that only pastry chefs do.
Yeah.
And it was like, really? So I mean, being that I didn't go to pastry school, I think that creativity was there. And when we got second place for that one,
awesome.
So it was shocking. It was like, what? All these beautiful laced cakes, and we got second place. I'm sure I pissed off some pastry chefs that were there. She's not even a chef. Yeah. But it was, I guess, encouraging, and so it kind of pumped up me and my husband to do the next year's. And we came back and we did it, and we got third and stacked cake, and then we decided to do it again. And that following the third year that we did it, that's when Food Network stepped in and said they wanted to help judge, and so they sent some of their cake winners to come and judge us, and I got first place, and it was like, oh my gosh.
That's some validation right there.
Huge validation to get from
That's
actual
awesome.
Professional competition-driven cake makers to tell me that my work was flawless. And I was like, wow. And that's when, we wanted to do it. We asked to see if we can get our home approved for just to bake or melt chocolate in our house. And at the time it wasn't feasible, but when the cottage law came out, and that's after having my child, it was like, all right, let's try cookies. At least start small. Maybe the cake thing is just not, because it's a lot with a kid, to make cakes. It's like, oh my gosh, kids and cakes, it's like stacking and like long nights. So my husband decided that, if we're going to do cottage law, let's start small. Let's do cookies first. Let's see how it turns out, because you're really good at the cookie thing. You might as well just try it.
Yeah.
And it really was just, before taking orders, it was really just posting pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was just like, let me bake some cookies. Let's just take pictures of them. And it was just for fun, really.
Well, because it was huge, and for the audience, the cottage law was something where it enabled a lot of people to have food businesses out of your house, right?
Yeah.
And so that was huge, right?
My gosh, it was
enabled you to do something.
It was shocking to see it come out, and to hear, people making breads and jams and cakes and cookies and all that stuff at home. And it was like, I never thought that this would be the opportunity that we would get.
Yeah.
And and it was in place for a year or two before we fully took the leap. We did a lot of number crunching, a lot of saving, a lot of, because at the time with the child, we had daycare expenses, diaper expenses. And so we were like, okay, well, how do we manage this if I have to take care of her and do this at the same time, because we wouldn't put her in daycare. So after crunching the numbers and seeing that it made sense, because we would save all this money, from all that, it was perfect. It worked out. So we just said, let's just do it. Eyes shut. Let's just go. That's essentially what we did, and it was very scary.
When you took that leap, and you're talking about it's posting and getting your first customer, how did you get your first customer? Like what type of posting did you do? How did you ask to get paid for it? Like, what did that look like to get your first handful of customers?
Right. It was hard. Well, I mean, I had already had customers because of my friends and word of mouth. But when I was posting on Instagram and it, started, getting more and more popular, this person sent me a message via email and said, hey, I saw your stuff on Instagram. I'd really like to see if you can make me some cookies for my baby shower. It was like, wait, who are you? How do I know you? And because I was so used to knowing the person that I was doing something for, either through a friend or a family. And I didn't know her, and she was in LA, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my very first customer. And I didn't even know how to charge. I had to do some research right away, because I'm so used to charging my friends just cost or, not much at all. And I before I responded to her, it took me a full day to respond to her, because I was researching like crazy, how do I charge? What do I charge her? What am I worth? Having to sit down and think about my time and my art, and is it worth it, you know? And she obviously thinks so. And so it's like, I had to do some really good research, and I don't think I charged her enough, but it was good for the time, and she was happy. And I was so scared to ship them that I was like, I'm going to drive them to her. And we drove all the way to LA to go drop them off for her. And it was, after that, she, you know, spread the news. I didn't even have any business cards. Like, I wrote my number down on on a piece of paper, and I was like, here. And
awesome.
I mean, I was so used to working with people, so that wasn't the issue. It was just that she wasn't related to me, or she wasn't a friend of a friend of a friend. You know, she had no connection to me, and I think that was super satisfying. And then after that, I just started taking, you know, responses and emails, and just, you know, kind of had to get a nice, you know, price grid for myself. And I didn't put the prices out there, but I knew what to talk about and base it on that. So it took a lot of research.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you struggled with any of the starting out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was scary because, you know, when you're dealing with friends and family, it's cool if you mess up, not a big deal. You know, it's like they don't judge you that way. But when you have people who expect perfection because they see you posting perfection or of something close to it that you're proud of, they want that, and to get I just struggled with not knowing it. Am I good enough? Is this good enough? Do they taste good? I mean, how many cookies I ate before they go out? It's like, oh my gosh, like I ate so many to make sure, and that everything was clean, everything, you know. It was just so scary to think that I'm giving it. What if this person comes back and wants to sue me? I mean, that scared me a lot. You know, what if I get them sick? I mean, you know, I was very, very paranoid about that stuff.
So did that make you like hesitate when you were thinking about growing?
Yes, so it made me hesitate, thinking that, can I do this? Can I expand? Especially when, you know, the Cottage Doll has the B class where you cook outside of your kitchen so you can ship. And that's when we, because for the most part it was just locally, you know, it was just like, okay, just local people, that's it, just local. And then after knowing how the licensing worked, because that in itself, the licensing is a huge circus. It's like, what do you do? How many forms do you fill out? That took major time to really sit down and think about it, and that was scary. But to when people ask you to ship things, it's like, you know, that I think was the most confusing part, and wondering, can I even do this? Can we rent a kitchen? Do we have the money to add to go rent a kitchen so I could cook, you know, and bake cookies and stuff. So being friends of chefs, I had access to a lot of nice kitchens, you know, but so that was nice. But yeah, that was definitely scary, and it made me feel definitely like I need to back off for this for a while, because I don't know what to do. So it was like, you know, it was kind of a zigzag for me in the beginning, you know. Yes, I could do it, and I kept telling people I was booked when I really wasn't, because I was like, I'm too afraid. I don't know if I could handle this person. She lives in Orange County, or, you know, something like that. So I think that was the scary part.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the things when you're starting out, right? It's one of those, you don't have every skill, right? And so you try to like find people who will help, and it sounds like your fiance, husband was kind of that person who you were going through it with, right? You weren't alone, and I think that helped with this whole process.
It completely helped. I mean, his encouragement, his even teachings, because he's an artist himself, and him giving me honest feedback, you know, and it was just really, really helpful to know if this is good, does it taste good, does it look good, and you know, I think, and me and him having so much experience together in the cake world, he knew how I worked under pressure. He knew how well it was, and about helping me with different techniques. Or he's like, hey, you know, you used to do this on cakes, you could do it on your cookies. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. And painting and all that stuff. I think he definitely made me feel more confident when it came to running full force.
Yeah, for sure.
Run against the wind. Do Alicia. But I don't know if I could share this, but the most scary inquiry came from Chef Marcela Valladolid. I am such a huge fan of her. I've been watching her since she was on Martha Stewart Apprentice, and I was just fascinated by her and her journey. And when she knocks on my DM door, my direct messages, and says, hey, I want to order some cookies for a photo shoot, I literally was like, I'm done.
You're
Like, oh my
freaking
God,
out.
I'm done. I'm freaking out. If I do this, what is this going to lead to? And she kept wanting me to ship nationwide. And it was like, oh, no, I can't. And she, if anything, she's the one who kind of pushed me to ship nationwide. And that's why I was like, okay, let's just do the kitchen thing. Let's do this nationwide, you know, and that way it'll, we can, you know, spread, you know, get more orders. But I, again, was hesitant because it's little by little. It's like inch, grow, inch. And, but I was grateful to have now a mentor like Chef Marcella. We became good friends, and I've done many cookies for her, and she's opened up so many doors for me.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that support system.
Yeah.
And all the while, my parents are up north cheering me on from afar. Going, you did it. All these years we've been wanting to do this, and you did it, you know. And but I just, you know, wishing that they were there with me, helping me.
Yeah, no, for sure. But that's, I think, it would, like, how did you ask? I don't know. I know that, like, when you get a mentor, you don't ask them, hey, you know, mentor me, you know, I need mentoring. How did you convert that into a mentorship thing?
Well, the first time I made her cookies, I didn't meet her. I met her assistant, and I told her assistant how amazingly excited I am about this. One thing that I think you should do if you ever get that opportunity to make something for somebody that you admire, go above and beyond. You know, don't just make them the order that they asked, or don't just give them extra. Do something different. So what I did for Marcella was, at the time she had her tequila out, and I made her a tequila bottle out of a cookie, and tequila shots and limes and stuff. So it was not what she asked for. I made her what she asked for, but that was just an addition to show her what I could do, show her my skill set. And she freaked out and like DM'd me and said, oh my gosh, like I did not know that you could do things like this, in which I think she saw the potential.
Yeah.
And so when she reordered again for her show, The Kitchen at the time, and it was so many cookies, I went to her house and she said, I have some time, come to my office, let's sit down. And you know, wanted to talk to me.
That's awesome.
And it was so nice because I was able to sit there while crying, ugly crying, but tell her how I've been watching her since Martha Stewart Apprentice, and how I've been following her on all with her books, her show, and all that stuff. She ended up crying. It's just like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. And I think it was just, it just worked, and it happened. And at the end of it, she's like, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You know, we're friends now. You can call me amiga. And I trusted her. And I think it's just allowing yourself to give you trust, and taking away that celebrity status and going, you know what, she really just is a great person. So I have reached out to her for advice in certain things, and she has been so sweet about it. So I've been great. I'm really grateful for that relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like he sees the opportunity, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, I told myself, you know, and even my husband, when I'm worried about something, he's like, ask Marcella, ask her. And I'm like, I can't ask her. And he goes, yes, you can. She told you, call her whenever. And, you know, and I did, and she will respond so quickly and so gracefully and so nicely. And it's like, it's giving the person that trust.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
No, that's awesome that you were able to make that connection. And when you were, now we're talking about you growing and, you know, building an actual business, right? So what were your next steps? You mentioned that she had pushed you to kind of ship nationwide. Was that something you went full force? Was it more figuring out what cookies were your bread and butter?
Right.
What did that look like?
It was more gradual, because I think after that, because Chef Marcella knew me from my Mexican cookies, and the Mexi cookie kind of thing took off right before I met Chef Marcella, where I made myself a set of pan dulce cookies because there was nothing out there like that. So then I kind of got known. I kind of started making all sorts of shapes, even when people weren't ordering them. It was my own art, and I was posting in between the orders. And I think I got known for that. So once I got known for like a niche, it was kind of like, okay, that's where everyone went to. The go-to person for Mexican fiesta cookies, we're going to go to Alicia's Delicias. And so and then also testing shipping, you know, and I would, if someone, from afar, I had friends on the East Coast and I'd ask them, can I ship some stuff to you? I want to see if it doesn't break, and see how far it can go. And so that was really helpful to do that, because I wasn't ready to just take orders. And of course, Chef Marcella blasted me going, she's taking orders nationwide now. And I'm like, oh no. I was like, she totally blasted me out there. So I was very choosy about the orders at the time, because I didn't want to overwhelm myself and disappoint people all over the nation. If people wanted them, Midwest, or even in places that have snow, it was like, oh my gosh, are they going to make it? So I had to really think about those things and learn, research, YouTube, but learn from other cookiers who ship, ask questions, and a lot of other people in the industry are very helpful. So it's been the community of cookiers that I found is really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and it definitely, you're resourceful, right? Like you don't. I
research everything. I am such a freak when it comes to researching. I'm like, okay, I'm going to research this, because I always want other people's opinions, and I love that people blog about stuff, because their experiences have helped me. If I read a blog or I read reviews and just technique differences, I think that's really helped me a lot with trying to expand and kind of grow it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think shifting gears, I've talked previously about kind of what you go through as like a person of color, and building a business. You sometimes feel like you have an even more steeper climb, right? Yeah. When you don't see the resource right up front, you might give up really easily, because you're like, okay, maybe this isn't the way I should be going. Right. There's a lot of cultural pressures that we face. Thinking about how we grew up, and just the culture is, you get a job, make money, you help out, or something like that. How are you, it just sounds inherent for you, right? It just sounds like you've been able to be resourceful and just keep pushing and not quit. Yeah. And obviously you have a wonderful support system, but what type of advice would you give somebody maybe facing some of those pressures? And maybe you did face some of those pressures, and how did you get over those?
I think just keep creating, even if you're in your own little bubble at home. No one's there to pressure you or judge you or tell you anything. I think just keep creating. If you have a passion for art or for baking, especially the bakers, because I think those are the ones I relate to the most, but for a person who loves to bake, bake for your family, bake for your friends, just show them what you could do, and get all, crazy on their cupcakes. If they ask for just a simple set of cupcakes, don't make them simple, don't charge them either, but just do something that's going to wow them, because then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, and they're going to recommend you. And then you start to develop a support system, because you're showing, it's almost like showing off a little bit. It's like, show off your passion, and if it is passion, and you will know if it's passion, because you don't care how long you're up until 4 or 5 in the morning doing it, because you're so pumped to do it. And that's when, when you're so pumped to do it and you're not annoyed ever, that's when you have passion in something. Yeah. And so I think if you have that, don't let anyone tear you down. Just keep creating. Yeah. I keep telling people that, keep creating and just make stuff and come up with things on your own. And research, like I did when I researched with my pan dulce cookies, there was nothing out there that screamed. The only Mexican style cookies I could find were maracas, a weird looking sombrero, and a mustache, maybe with some chilies. Like that was the only thing I could find, and it was like, gosh, and there's nothing out there that screams, Mexican in my culture. So that's when I had an aha moment, and I just said, this needs to happen. This needs to be done, and I just started creating for myself. Yeah. Not for anybody else. It was myself. Most of these cookies that I have done have all been for me, for my own art, for my own satisfaction, and it just so happens that everyone's been wanting to order them. So that made it a bonus.
Yeah. No, and a lot of people will get stuck in the mindset of, okay, I need to get an education, I need to get a good job, and I'm gonna, get all this money. Or I see this person, they're making a lot of money from the business they started, I'm gonna try to replicate that. Right. So it's definitely important to.
Right, but sometimes that doesn't work though. If you're in it for the money, it's just not going to work. Exactly. You're going to get drained from it. And I mean, listening to the pressures of family going, oh, what are you doing this hoopla for? You're not going to make any money. If you're passionate about it, don't listen to them. Don't let them knock you down, because there is money in it. I mean, like my dad never wanted to take the risk for us to me and my mom to do this full time, because he didn't not that he didn't believe in us. It was just like, gosh, it's just so much money. What if it doesn't work? And we can have the extra money to do that. It was a money thing for him. And whereas my mom was like, you could do it, you'll make money somewhere else, go get a job, and then, a part-time job, and then do this part-time. Like in her mind, that's what she was thinking. You don't, that's why they call it starving artists. You could do it, Alicia, just switch to top ramen, you'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, the initial push is a struggle, but then it smooths out and you're doing something you're passionate about, and you're making, the money will follow.
Yeah, the passion is the key.
So when you were starting out, you had mentioned that you were a new parent, right? You just had a kid, and your kid also is autistic. How hard was that for you, or what type of things happened with your business alongside being a new parent, and how did you overcome some of those things?
That's actually the moment I decided to not do cakes anymore, because my child has special needs and she needs more attention. Cookies was another thing that was for me that was, I could do a little, put them away, and then come back to her, and maybe save them for later. Whereas cakes, you got to constantly work, and you're building, you're stacking, and it's just too much, to deal with her. So I kind of laid low on the cake thing, and I just put cookies in the forefront. But having her home was very difficult, a lot of therapy. I decided to, in the midst of all of this cookie mania, is to take her out of school and homeschool her. So during the day we homeschool, and then at night is when, my husband comes home from work, he's with her, and then I just flood out the cookies, and that's a huge juggle that even to this day I struggle with, but that's the hustle for me. Yeah. That's the hardness. And I always tell myself, if it's not hard, then it's not worth it. And it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be difficult, because the more difficult and hard that it is, sometimes I feel like the better it is. Yeah. The better the outcome, because you have to kind of, take those punches in order to get, the reward at the end. But yeah, it is definitely difficult with her and her autism, and now her education, to make sure that she kind of keeps up.
But it didn't stop you. It didn't,
No, it did not stop me, because I knew I needed to do something for myself, but also for her. So, and cookies and everything, and this is my self-love. I know people keep saying, oh, self-love, take care of it, pamper yourself. And it's like, my pampering is painting, taking some time out and actually getting lost painting and listening to music while my child is sleeping. That makes me feel good. And knowing that we had a great day of reading and writing and playing, and we and a lot of my homeschool is based on art. So we do everything that we learn is art, it's crafts. And during the day my table's full of paper and glue and crayons and glitter. Yeah. And and at night it changes to my my art.
Yeah. So that's part of your why is leaving that legacy and kind of showing
her that you could do things and make beautiful things in art, and she is one amazing artist herself. So whether she takes on the cookie thing after I go or retire, that's up to her. Again, I'm not going to pressure her. Like, my parents didn't pressure me. So I think it's important to let your kid experience stuff on their own and explore. Yeah. And that's what I like about the unschooling, is that kids learn through exploring, and that's what she has been doing. And I'm so grateful to be able to have the means to do that and have a business to help me keep that going. Now with my little one, who's 6, it's really nice, because all 3 of us are at home doing homeschool, and it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
It's definitely a dream, but it's not easy, but it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a struggle, because I think that's what makes it good. Yeah. Yeah. So I always tell people, you could do it if you're a mom. There's no reason. If anything, you'll save money on daycare.
No, and that's good. I mean, I think it's, being a new parent in general, right? It's just
crazy.
Easy to say, okay, like, I'm going to put my business on hold, but it's awesome that you've been able to incorporate. Yeah. And I'm sure it wasn't easy.
It was easy. No, I did wait until she was at least, was it 6 or 7 to fully do this. So I did wait a while. I was simultaneously doing cakes, but when we took off and did the cottage law and she was about 6, it was like, it was definitely hard. And I had, at that time, had a second child. So, and it was like 2 daycares. That's expensive. Let's just do the cookie thing full time, because I think that's what I'm going to need to do now. But it worked out, though.
Cool.
So I feel proud of that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you won't quit, like you said.
Yeah, you won't quit.
Yeah, no, I think that, hearing all these stories, it's always of creativity.
Right.
You're creative enough to find a way to combine your passion and your art and then, being able to monetize. And you hear that a lot in our culture of like, there's a bunch of different businesses and they're not tech companies. It's not like the things you see in the news or the highlights. And that's something that is important to share. And so your story is inspiring and, because a lot of people feel like there's only one way. And, you've obviously shown that there's not only, one way. So when you're talking about the future of your business, where do you see Alicia's Delicias going in the next couple years, maybe in the next 5? What is your next steps for that?
Well, I see now more and more people actually replicating my cookies, or maybe even coming up with their own spin, which I love. I absolutely love it when I see people come up with their own spin in their cultures. But it makes me feel, because people keep asking me, where did you get this cookie cutter? And it's like, well, I made it. I drew it out, and I made it with either some, cutter metal or I had it printed. So it's, and I think I've realized, oh my gosh, I need to make my own cutters and I need to sell them to my fellow cookiers and help them learn the techniques that I've developed. And showcase that. So I think in 3 to 5 years, I would like to have a cookie cutter line, maybe even a mold line. I make all my molds, and again, because it's stuff that I can't find.
Yeah.
Like nopal molds and stuff. It's like stuff, things that, or papel picado molds. It's like people aren't making those, and so it's and maybe some people will in the future, but it's about your own design.
Yeah.
Making your own design and making it yours. So that's what I'm hoping for, is this product, and actually teaching. Maybe teaching more of what I've learned.
Well, you're spreading culture, right?
Yes. And I encourage people to spread their culture. It's like if you're Japanese, do something that you learned, when you're a kid, or if anything, if you're Indian, bring it out. And there's so much beauty in all of these cultures, and I don't want anyone to ever forget, because we live in the United States where we're all melting together. We should all represent. We all should hold up our flags of where our ancestors came from, or our grandparents, and be proud of it, because it's easy to be American and just forget about where you came from, because America is supposed to be all of us together.
Yeah. And
I think I think it's important for us to not let that fade away. And to just represent.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that when you talk about small businesses, especially people of color, minority-owned businesses, they don't think big enough. And so I think this is you thinking bigger, right? There's a way that, you're one person, you can only get so big and you can only make so many cookies for, the world. And so now you're saying, I want everybody to have the opportunity to be an Alicia, to be, spreading this love and art and all that. So I think that's your way of like thinking big, and that's awesome. It's awesome to see. Yeah. And when you're thinking about like the future entrepreneurs who might want to start something like you did, or might just want to start any business, what is some type of advice you would give them when they're starting out or when they're feeling down? Kind of what would help them keep going?
I think really do your research, as I keep saying in this interview. Research is key. Do your homework. When you want to open a business, see what it takes in your city. What does your city need from you in order to do this professionally? But also don't forget your passion. It's not, you can't just be about money. I mean, yes, money will come, but if you are passionate, money will be flowing at you, because people see that. People feed off of that energy. And then also just to really be original. I mean, yes, you can copy some people's artwork or get inspired by it, just to start. But once you kind of find your niche, I think that's when you can kind of just go for it. Yeah. You can't sit here and copy someone else and say, oh, that's my niche. And it's like, but it's not. That other person started it, So it's like, I think it's important to find it, even if it's a little bit related to maybe that other person's niche, it's fine. But just be known for something, try and be original, and just keep creating. I always tell people that, be original and keep creating, constant, just constant creation is just key.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sitting down with us and sharing your story. I think it's like when you were starting out, you were a new parent. Were taking a leap, not knowing kind of where it was going to go. So I think it's very inspiring to hear that, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And thank you for coming on to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.